we got USA basketball. And again, there's question marks, surrounding with as far as the roster. And then not to mention, a couple of some roster changes. But in the end, is this the team that really can be striving for gold? So really to talk about all about that and all about LA sports, nonetheless, here's our good friend, Grant Mona. So, Grant, when this roster really was, constructed, my takeaway of it is that, okay, we've got some mixture of experience. That's great. But is this really the kind of team that formulates to where this is a team that can strive for gold? I watched the USA basketball team a year ago when they had Jaren Jackson, Anthony Edwards, Jalen Brunson, a lot of it, and I looking, damn, these are some damn good players that I think if you put them together collectively, they're outmatching everybody. So when you look at this USA basketball team and the way it's constructed, I think they'll definitely win up some games. But I also do think they might get tested the closer that they end up striving for gold, right?
Jake, first of all, thanks for having me on. I'm a big fan of the show, so thanks for having me on to talk about anything, really. But right now, yes, you're right. This team is formulated to win a gold, right? It's named the Redeem. It's up there with the Redeem team. It's up there with some of these teams that the Team USA has put together, to kind of quiet people a little bit, because there's a lot of talk about the international gap. There's a lot of talk about other kind of countries coming together to beat Team USA in these Olympics. I mean, if you look at the past 5 MVPs of the NBA, they're all international players, right? You had Giannis and Jokic and probably Wemby here soon too, because Wemby's that good of a player. So you have this international kind of influence that's going on in the NBA right now. And to be very honest with you, that gap is closing, Jake. Like, that gap between the top end talent of the USA players and what we have coming up with France and with Serbia and with Croatia and with a lot, and even Team Canada. Team Canada in the Team USA showcase just last night, they put up a good showing. And I know they lost, and I know that Team USA pulled away in the end, but you could see that the lineup of SGA, Jamal Murray, Lou Dort, Trey Lyles, Kelly Olynyk, that team honestly would be a playoff team if we started that team in the NBA. So while Team USA, like you mentioned, I expect them to win gold. I think everybody does. They have the basketball Avengers, as I keep calling them. So they're supposed to win gold, right? This is a team that is formulated with Kevin Durant, who is out right now, Kawhi Leonard, who is gone now but was supposed to be on the team, LeBron James, Steph Curry, Bam Adebayo, Anthony Davis. You have this group of players, and that's just the veteran players. You have newcomers like Devin Booker and Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Halliburton. That group and that young lineup, actually, Jake, was the better part of that Team USA showcase in their first game. I mean, the veterans to start out, it was an 11 to 1 run by Team Canada. And then that young lineup came in with the versatility, and Jason Tatum took over, and Anthony Davis was a menace on defense alongside Bam Adebayo. That's when you started to see why Team USA is probably going to win gold. But again, like you mentioned, these international teams, they're nothing that you can beat them by 20 or 30. I mean, if you remember back in 2008, 2012, 2016, a lot of these teams, like, you'd beat them by 20, 30, and just be like, okay, we're playing France today. All right, who's next? Now you can't really do that. These teams are a lot better, and you can see it in the NBA. There's a lot of good international players.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing is because, the international wave is just crashing on the NBA. The fact that we've got Jokic, Giannis, Wemby, and you can even make the argument for, Joel Embiid. But there's many, up and comers that I just think, we're very lucky for as the sport itself. But I think, yeah, if you're trying to grow the next wave of domestic stars at the very least, Anthony Edwards is that pillar that you hope could end up bringing up in the stars, because number one, the one and done deal doesn't work anymore. Sorry, John Calipari, but the thing is, you got to draft, develop, and I think with the NIL deal, this could make it happen, but I think that's what Adam Silver's pushing for. Draft, develop, get competitive. The Eastern Conference, it was weak this past season, but now I think I've got 6 to 7 Eastern Conference teams that are looking much, much better. So here's my thing. So, as somebody who surrounded in the LA County, let's start with the Lakers up from here because here's my honest opinion of this. I think nepotism is a very strong type of deal. It's a type of business that, in the end, you got to be making the bet at the end of it. I mean, I was lucky enough to land in a government sector job because I had a family member, but I never let that narrative cloud what my capabilities are. So when I look at Bronny James and the career path that is bestowed upon him, number one, the guy's coming from a crucial injury that could have sidelined him of his entire career. You have your father that they hold to the highest expectation and the highest criticism, that now you're on the same team. I just think after I saw the first game, 4 points, 21 minutes, I mean, I don't know about you, Grant, but I'm like, this is kind of a hefty road that I don't think any other player, regardless of it, could even have to bear through that kind of pressure, right?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And, the nepotism thing, I feel like has taken a little bit too much of the talk around Bronny James. And your point about his injury and that heart issue that he had, that's a big issue, right? That's something that not a lot of players even come back from, let alone come back to be a draft eligible player, right? And you're going to look at the numbers at USC. Everyone looks at the numbers at USC and they say, oh, it was only 5 points per game. Oh, he didn't really do much. He wasn't very critical to their success, and whatever success they had, USC wasn't a very good program. I attribute that to it as well. They brought in a new coach this year, so maybe that was part of the reason why Bronny James never really got going. But in terms of what it means for the league, it's historic. It's going to be historic to see LeBron James play with his son. We have not seen that ever in NBA history. Bronny James can, in a few, maybe 3-4 years, be a very good 3-and-D player. That's what he specializes in. Everyone has to relax. He's not going to be LeBron James. He's not going to be a superstar. He's probably not going to be an all-star. But a lot of these draft picks that I've been seeing over the past couple years, and we can go back to Kason Wallace last year, we can go back to a lot of these guys that are contributing on contending teams. And I think that's what Bronny James can be in terms of his NBA development, is a guy that comes in for 15, 20 minutes a game, guards one of your best players, guards one of your best guards, shoots 40+% from three, hops around. He's still very athletic. I mean, this is a guy I know that a lot of people have concerns about his shooting, and he hasn't looked good in his first 2 summer league games, but I don't think he's a finished product now. This is a guy that's going to need a lot of time in the G League, and I know there's reports about him not going to the G League. He will be going to the G League, I promise you. And eventually down the road, I think that he can be a good piece. And just because he's LeBron James' son, we're going to put this label on him that he's got to be this best thing ever. He's got to live up to that name. He's not going to live up to that name in terms of the talent, in terms of the accolades, but what he can live up to is being a good NBA player, which I think that he still can be. And the nepotism part of it, you look at around sports everywhere, the Cowboys are like that. You look at around the NBA, there's a lot of teams that you can go through the front offices and see a lot of cases of nepotism. So this isn't just a singular case. Not just that, but everyone made a big deal, Jake, about his contract. Oh, it was 4 for, $7.9 million. There are plenty of players that get that in the second round. I mean, just last year there were players that got that in the second round. So it's not just because it's Bronny. A lot of players get that. We just like to pin it on him because he's a James. So, the main point here being is that I think Bronny's going to be a good player in the NBA. Not great, not all-star level, and not now, but in the future. He needs development, and he needs time in the G League right now.
Yeah, 100%. And I think you're absolutely right. And I agree with that kind of perspective because, yeah, you're drafted, you're here to develop, and you're here to be the best player that you possibly can be, at least at your capability and ability. So this is interesting because, LA market, unlike a lot of these big sports markets from New York to Chicago to LA and even to Dallas, Texas. I mean, when you're paid big bucks, and especially when you are in a market where there are high expectations of you in any fan base. So JJ Redick takes on the coaching job. And here's my takeaway with this. I don't bash him as a person. I think he's great. I think he's somebody that, like, he's a player's type guy. He's been in the league. He knows the expectations and he knows the right things to really kind of say when you're building up a lot of your talents. But I think because we haven't seen him in a coaching track record, we haven't really seen him be like, under pressure, having to deal with, well, how is he going to basically change things up if, let's say, they now just lost out to an 18-point run. How are you going to combat that? So it's a lot of those situations he's going to be faced with. But outside looking in, when you perspect JJ Redick from the player that he was to now being the coach, what are some of the expectations we might see from the Lakers? And could this either be one of two roads? Could this be something that might be interesting for the Lakers moving forward? Or is this just kind of a reckoning because of just, the Lakers' history with their coaching issues?
My issue, Jake, with the Lakers, it wasn't more so the head coach. And I know that Darvin Ham got a lot of flack in the media. He got a lot of flack from people here in LA, a lot. And it was deserved. The rotations weren't good. Some of the minutes allocations weren't good. Bringing in JJ Redick helps. But the Lakers are one of 3 teams this offseason that has not made a single free agent move. They haven't traded for anybody. I know they re-signed Max Christie. They picked up the option on a few players, but they didn't make any free agency signings. They didn't do any trades. So they're kind of the same exact team as they were last year. Obviously, they drafted Dalton Knecht, who I think is a very good draft pick, and they drafted Bronny James. But again, I don't think it was more so their coach. Their roster, as currently constructed with JJ Redick, is really not a top 6 roster in the West, in my opinion. So while I do believe that JJ Redick is going to be a good coach, I really do believe that. I don't think the past experience is going to have any effect on his ability to coach a basketball team. This is a guy in JJ Redick that was a proven NBA veteran. He was one of the best shooters of all time. He played under some really, really good coaches. He played under Coach K, and you can say what you want about Doc Rivers, but Doc Rivers is one of the best coaches in NBA history. He has won a title, and he played under Doc Rivers. So this is a guy that has been around really good head coaches. I'm sure that he's talked to those guys as well about some advice, and he's going to be surrounded, Jake, by McMillan, by Brooks, some really good veteran head coaches in the past, former head coaches on that staff, which is going to help him. So JJ Redick is a good hire. I think, look, the Dan Hurley stuff, there's a lot being made about that. I never really thought that Dan Hurley was going to take that job. I think that he hasn't really made at UConn. So for JJ Redick and this team, it is going to be tricky. It's not going to happen right away. There's going to be a lot of growing pains here just because of the guy that LeBron James is, the team that they have. It's more of a veteran team right now. So it's not going to be easy to begin. He's going to have growing pains. But I think eventually this is going to be a good hire for the Lakers. But again, like I mentioned, I don't really have any, I don't really think that JJ Redick being the head coach is the problem with the Lakers. I think it's the front office. I think it's the roster construction. They need to have a better roster. Unless they're just going this route, Jake, and I've heard this too around LA, is, hey, we just want to be entertaining and we don't really care about winning a title. Our title window has passed. We're just trying to fill the crowd and fill the seats and see Bronny with his dad and have it be that. So if they're going that route, fine. You did your job and you brought in the guys that you wanted, fine. But if this is a team that's serious about winning a title, I don't see it. And a lot of people here in LA don't see it either. I mean, there's a lot of Laker fans just waiting around looking at their watch and be like, hey, time's ticking. There's really no free agents left, so we got to go to the trade market. And even then, it's really not a lot of players there. So I am in on JJ Redick. I think he's going to be a good hire, but my concern is with the roster, not really the head coaching.
Well, let's just hope that, at this time being, the Lakers know exactly how to play Connect 4 in order to really march their way to victory. And you know what I mean?
It has to be his nickname. It has to.
So a final quick one before we let you go and we move on. So I've had the pleasure out here in Denver, Colorado, and going to my second Major League ballpark at Coors Field. I had the pleasure of watching Shohei Ohtani in person, and the most polarizing player and the guy that from first to last at bat, to have the ability for fans to pull out their phones, either taking pictures or just recording videos, and just the money and really just the fan base that he's bringing in. It's not just everybody just, here in our home soil, but all this international money that's coming in. So now again, another all-star, and you can here's the thing: you can't argue the fact he's a starting DH. Okay, you're not arguing him out of that position, but just seeing it and the way that the Dodgers really kind of put together this whole thing. He takes $700 million, deferred comps nearly all of it because he wants to win a title. He knows the money market, sees the competitive, edge that they have. So I just think with Shohei Ohtani and what he's really kind of brought onto this league is all these international monies that's coming in. It's doing a lot of other teams some favors from here, not just for the Dodgers, but when you look at this, at some point, this is going to be smelling World Series victory and potentially, I hate bringing this up sometimes, but everybody always heckles about it, but a full season championship nonetheless. So when you think about that with a player like Shohei Ohtani, from moving from Orange County and now into LA County, I mean, this is something that this is the long term. You're hoping to win more than just one championship.
Right. I think that's the biggest thing here is that he took that deferred money so they can go get Yoshinobu Yamamoto, so they can go get Teoscar Hernandez, so they can pick up some of these better players that they did pick up. And Shohei Ohtani in LA right now is a phenomenon. I mean, every week I get press releases from the Dodgers about, hey, this Japanese company signed a deal with the Dodgers for a partnership, or this team is now the official sponsor of this, and it's all Japanese companies. The Japanese media, I mean, it's very hard to even get media credentials for Dodger games because of the Japanese media, and it is a huge money bag getter for this team and for this organization. And that's partly why they probably agreed to doing the $2 million per year salary for I don't know how long it is because they're going to get so much money from the Japanese companies and from the sponsorship deals is that they really don't matter. But the real big issue here, and I think that the big issue right now with the Dodgers, Jake, is they are very injured. If you look at their rotation on the injured list, they have one of the best injured list rotations in all of baseball. Shohei Ohtani's not pitching this year, so I'm going to kind of place him on the injured list for a pitcher. You have Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Tyler Glasnow, Dustin May, Walker Buehler. Like, that right there is a playoff rotation, and it's all on the injured list. And not to mention Tony Gonsolin and some of the other guys. Bobby Miller was just demoted. So I think, Shohei Ohtani can only do so much, right? He's in the lead for the Triple Crown. He's probably the leading NL MVP candidate. He's going to be in the All-Star game. He's not going to be in the Home Run Derby, which I agree with. That usually ruins people's swings. But this is a guy in Shohei Ohtani that he's hitting leadoff as well, which he has never done in his career with Mookie Betts out. And I forgot to mention that Mookie Betts is out. Max Muncy's out. This is a team in the Dodgers that right now, yes, you're going to look at the standings, you're going to look at their numbers and say, okay, well, why are you complaining? Why are Dodger fans complaining? They're 6-7 games up in the division. They're almost 20 games up over 500. What's the issue? Well, the issue is the process, right? Dodger fans, and myself included, because I cover the team, we're seeing a trend now of since, I think, May 21st, Jake, the Dodgers, are only 2 games over 500 in that span. So they've been playing almost 500 baseball since late May, which is, coming up around 2 months now. So there's a big, big issue with their pitching staff, the starting pitching, because some of the guys that I mentioned in that injured rotation, some of them aren't coming back until probably mid-September. So you're going to have to find guys to maybe do that. They have one of the better farm systems in all of baseball. I have been clamoring for them to just push all of their prospects to the center of the table and say, here, White Sox, here is all of our best prospects for Garrett Crochet and Luis Robert Jr. Here, Tigers, here is all of our prospects for Skubal. Like, there's so many guys you can go out and get that kind of supplement the team and better the team. So when those guys come back, when you have Glasnow and Yamamoto come back, because those guys will come back, you have a better team. But right now they are scuffling, and the bottom of the lineup is an issue. The starting rotation is an issue. And while Shohei Ohtani is doing his thing in LA and not in Orange County, there are a lot of issues with the Dodgers right now that should be addressed by the end of the deadline.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. But, again, when you put in a long-term deal and a long-term plan, you're hoping that you're going to get championships along the way with this kind of deal. But, I mean, they're in good hands. I mean, they got enough money as it is that they can go and make some moves and buy some players, But yeah, we'll see what happens from there. Trade deadline coming up. And then, of course, the best time of baseball is usually closest to October. So we'll really see the
Yeah.
competition up from there. But Grant, appreciate you jumping on by, man. Shout out to, your show up on the Sporting Tribune. Where can people find you up and to get you all of your content?
Yeah, so I do live shows weekly throughout the week at Money Mo Media. I do articles for the Sporting Tribune, for the Dodgers, for the Clippers, for the Rams. So I'm all LA over here. You can follow me at gmona48 on X, on Instagram, on YouTube. Obviously, my handle's right there. So yeah, we got content going on almost every day. So
Well, there you go, folks. Tune in on the Sporting Tribune for Grant Mona. Appreciate you jumping on by, man. Enjoy the rest of the week, and we will definitely see you soon.
all right, Jake, thanks so much for having me, man.